Welcome back to another video on the Wrestling and another edition of NXT Out of 10. Of course, it's a big episode of NXT today because No Mercy's now in the books from this past weekend, and of course we've got the big TNA Invasion show next week. So yeah, all of the fallout and all of the build to that, and we kick things off with a recap of No Mercy with a heavy focus on the Monroe Grace match and the main event between Femi and Saints. This led to Saints coming out for his first promo as the NXT champion, giving a passionate promo about winning the title, proving doubters wrong by betting on themselves. Josie Jane came out to congratulate him, but said they have bigger things to worry about. She said TNA is trying to take over NXT because they keep winning TNA's titles from them. This brought out Ava and said Ricky and JC were the captains of Brown, which means they had to decide who was on their teams. Santino came out to a very warm reception. He introduced his captains, Santana and Kalani Jordan. The announcer was shocked to see a member of the NXT roster chosen as a TNA captain, even though she is a Knockouts champ. The promo from Saints was the best part of this segment and also covered a lot of the ground with naming the leaders. This was a decent way to open the show and hype up the big showdown between the brands. As we moved on to our first match, which was Jada Parker versus Lash Legend, and as soon as Legend got to the ring, she went right after Parker. This feud has been building to a point for weeks, so both women showed a lot of aggression right out of the gate. They fought out of the ring and the show went to a break with both on the ground and Legend hit a slam. We returned to see her kick out of a sunset flip and lock in a single leg crab until Parker reached the ropes. Both are physically imposing and they have grown a lot since joining the developmental brand. This bout may not have been pretty, but it felt personal and competitive, which is always a good thing. Parker ended up scoring the win with a running hip attack. It was a clean victory, no shenanigans or interference. This was a fun follow-up to the last bout. I'll give it a 5 out of 10. As we then moved on to Miles Bourne versus Josh Briggs, but before that, Ethan Page bragged about beating Tavian Heights, but when he called out Dr. Wagner Jr., Mustafa Ali showed up. Ali reminds him that he was released and he had already earned a North American title shot, and he still wants that shot. He spoke to Ava and agreed that they would have one. Ali won the fight to send all ego packing. Very excited by that match. As we then got that Bourne v Briggs match to determine who would join Team NXT. Bourne was giving out some size, but he didn't look intimidating and got right in Briggs' face before suplexing him. This was a very physical match with great energy from both. It was relatively paint by number in terms of what they did, but they made it look hard fought. They got 2 full segments for this bout, so they had enough time to make sure both guys came away from this looking good, and Bourne got the win to earn a spot on Team NXT, which I think is probably the right decision. 6 out of 10. Next up, it was Lola Vice versus Fallon Henry, and despite being partners, Jane made Henley earn a spot on Team NXT by taking another woman who wanted to be on the Team Vice. This was back and forth until Henley hit a sliding German suplex to take control. She stayed on Vice and almost won with a neck breaker. Vice managed to make a comeback and get the win in the last 30 seconds, much to the surprise of Jane at ringside. This was a little on the short side, but it was genuinely hard to tell who would win, and unpredictability is something wrestling always needs. So yeah, I'll give it a 5 out of 10. As we then moved on to the Culling versus Javon Evans and Leon Slater. TNA and NXT obviously building, but 2 of their youngest stars teamed up here to take on Spears and Vance. Slater took control of Spears immediately and cornered him for some mounted punches. He kept up the momentum against Vance with a tag to Fresh Evans. The High Flyers had the crowd cheering and chanting. Izzy Dame was trying to get Paxley to help at ringside, but Paxley was too interested in playing with her new doll, so Dame sent her to the back. Since this was the final NXT TNA segment, it was good to make it the match of the night. The Culling was good, but Evans and Slater were the stars here. WWE knew putting them together would lead to a fun performance and didn't disappoint. Evans took out Vance with a ringside while Slater hit the 450 senton for the win. 7 out of 10. As we then moved on to the final segment, and several TNA stars were shown arriving in NXT parking lot before the final break. They made their way into the ring along with several NXT superstars, and the teams were revealed. Saints tricked Javon Evans and Miles Bourne for NXT against Santana, Kazarian, Moose and Slater, and in women's, JC Jane, Sol Ricka, Lola Vice and Jada Parker against Kalani Jordan, Cassie Lee, Jessie McKay and Mara Sade. The show ended with a big brawl breaking out between everyone from both shows, and Ava and Santana were powerless to stop it. And I think that's a really good lineup for both those matches, and yeah, really looking forward to that. Overall, this week's NXT gets a 6 out of 10 from me. It was almost entirely devoted to building up next week's showdown between the brands, which isn't a bad thing. It made it feel like a big deal. The main event was easily the best thing on the show, but the closing segment was also a good way to end the show, and like I say, some good lineups and pretty hype for next week, not gonna lie. Guys, that's it for this video. Thanks very much for watching. Remember to like, share, subscribe, follow us on our socials, link in the description below for daily wrestling news, meme and content. Subscribe to our other channels on screen right now, that'd be greatly appreciated. Thanks very much for watching. Peace out.